Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. Capsule 12. In the vast, uncharted expanse of the Andromeda sector, where stars glimmered like scattered jewels across an endless velvet canvas, the deep space exploration vessel Solaris drifted silently. Captain Lyra Anders stood on the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the distant nebula clouds, their iridescent hues casting ghostly patterns across the ship's hull. She was a veteran navigator, trained to read the language of stars and dead space alike. Tonight, however, the silence was interrupted by an anomaly, a tiny blip. A signal too faint to be accidental. It pulsed like a distant heartbeat, a message trapped in the void. The Solaris had been searching for relics of pre-collapse civilizations, uncovering artifacts lost to time and cosmic catastrophe. The signal came from a region known as the Gray Expanse, a stretch of dead stars and void pockets where no ship had ventured in centuries. The crew's curiosity outweighed caution. They set course toward the signal's origin, the ship's engines humming softly in the dark. Hours later, they arrived at coordinates where the signal's rhythm grew slightly stronger, a cadence that felt almost human. There, floating in the blackness, was an object. An ancient stasis pod, no bigger than a coffin and coated with the ice of deep space. It spun slowly, tracing lazy arcs against a backdrop of dead stars. The hull was etched with markings in a script none aboard recognized, interlaced with symbols eerily reminiscent of Earth's ancient runes. Captain Anders ordered the salvage team to retrieve it. The pod was brought into the ship's docking bay, its dormant state drawing the fascination of the crew. Dr. Elias Vorn, the Solaris's lead xenobiologist and chronopsychologist, was summoned for assessment. He studied the pod's exterior, running scans that revealed internal systems barely functioning but intact, safety protocols from a bygone age that somehow continued to protect its occupant. On the medical deck, the pod hissed softly as it began a systematic thaw. Sensors picked up the slow revival of biological functions. The team waited, tense beneath the sterile lights, as the pod's hatch opened and out emerged a figure, lean and pale, eyes wide and darting, confused but remarkably lucid. "I am called Kalen," he said in flawless galactic common. "I am from the future. Year 2784, he added, voice trembling. "My world is broken. I was sent back to warn, to prevent the collapse." Captain Anders stepped forward, her demeanor firm yet searching. "What collapse? Of which world? How did you get here?" Kalen's eyes flickered to the deep windows, as though the swirling galaxies might answer his questions. "Your time is on the threshold. The choices you make now will echo across centuries. I am the last hope, a messenger in time's twisted strands." The crew exchanged skeptical glances. Time travel was theoretical, borderline mythology. Yet Kalen's physiological scans confirmed life signs consistent with a human. His stasis pod's technology, however, was unlike any known to current science. Over the following days, Dr. Vorn conducted exhaustive sessions. Kalen recalled his world, a shattered Earth orbiting a dying sun, ravaged by wars born of greed and environmental failure. Humanity had unlocked temporal gateways, but at a cost, fracturing the timeline and destabilizing reality. Kalen had volunteered, or rather, been chosen, to traverse the dangerous temporal currents, to deliver a warning at a crucial moment to change the course. His pod had deviated, thrown into the Gray Expanse, centuries off course, but he was finally found. Captain Anders convened the Solaris's command council. The ship's AI interfaced with Kalen's pod data, attempting to parse temporal coordinates and cascade algorithms that might validate his claims. To their astonishment, they detected residual quantum entanglements suggesting the pod had indeed flipped through timestreams. An unease settled over the crew. Here was a man from a potential future, stepping into their present with knowledge that could unravel or elevate the fabric of reality. The question that tortured Anders was whether to believe him or see this as a trick, a symptom of prolonged stasis, or worse, a biological hazard. Kalin spoke again during a holographic presentation. He outlined a future timeline where technological advancement outpaced ethical wisdom, where temporal experiments unleashed waves of paradoxes, erasing entire civilizations from existence and destabilizing spacetime. The future they had not yet made was a nightmare of war and oblivion. The collapse is not a natural event, Kalin warned. It is a fracture caused by our own hubris. The timeline will splinter. The past and future will bleed into one another, and everything will unravel. Lyra Anders felt the weight of command crush down upon her. If Kalin was telling the truth, their present actions could dictate the survival of everything. But how to navigate a future no one else could see? Trust could be their anchor, or their undoing. Then the unknown happened. The ship's AI detected an incoming transmission. It was distorted, garbled, but unmistakably a warning. Moments later, an unidentified vessel appeared on the sensors, drifting near the gray expanse. Weapons systems activated automatically, the Solaris preparing for contact. Aboard the alien craft, a mysterious figure communicated through the AI interface. "You have found Capsule 12. The messenger must not survive." Kalin's eyes hardened. "They come from the fractured future, those who seek to silence the warning. I am their target." The Solaris scrambled, evasive maneuvers initiated, but space near the gray expanse was treacherous. Gravity wells from collapsed stars and errant asteroid fields provided cover and danger alike. The battle to protect Capsule 12 and its occupant was more than physical, it was a battle for time. In brutal exchanges across the void, the Solaris's crew fought with desperation, technology trading fire with glazed energy beams, tactics honed from centuries of space warfare. Kalin assisted with near-prescient tactics, calling out vectors and vulnerabilities no one else could anticipate. His knowledge was uncanny, as if his future self's experiences melded with his consciousness. Amid the chaos, Captain Anders realized that the enemy's strength lay not only in firepower but in a temporal appendage. A device grafted into their ship capable of altering time flows in small radii, erasing tactical moments from the past and resetting them to the enemy's favor. If we don't neutralize that device, every tactic we try will be undone before it plays out, Commander Ree explained, monitoring tactical displays awash with spatio-temporal distortions. Kalin proposed a risky countermeasure. We must synchronize our own temporal matrix with the POD's residual energy. It will create a temporal anchor, a shield that locks time around the Solaris, preventing erasure. The ship's AI began complex calculations, attempting to harmonize millennia-advanced time matrix technology with their outdated systems. Entire decks hummed with energy, the crew held their breath as circuits pushed beyond design limits. The ship trembled as the temporal shield blinked into existence, a shimmering dome bending light in impossible ways. The hostile vessel thundered against the shield, their attacks nullified, their temporal hacks failing. The Solaris seized the moment, launching a decisive strike that disabled the enemy's systems. As their ship drifted powerless into space, the enemy communicated one last chilling message before silence swallowed the channel. The timeline fractures will begin regardless. You only delay the inevitable. Exhausted but victorious, the crew gathered in the observation dome. Kalin's gaze traced the shimmering starships navigating the eternal dark. "The future is a tumultuous river," he murmured. "You have changed the course for now. But choices remain. Will you act with foresight or fall prey to the same hubris that doomed my era?" Captain Anders nodded slowly. "We will act, Kalin. We will carry your warning forward. Days later, the Solaris altered course, carrying Capsule 12 and its occupant toward human space. Kalen, still fragile from stasis and temporal traversing, began to share knowledge of advanced temporal theory and ethics, helping scientists understand the perils and powers that meddling with time could unveil. The scientific community awoke to a reality reshaped by the words of a man out of time. Policies on temporal research tightened. Philosophical dialogues about fate and free will blossomed. Humanity's view of its place in the cosmos deepened. Still, Captain Anders bore the quiet burden of knowing how fragile the temporal strands really were. Every new choice echoed through future corridors, unseen ripples in a vast ocean of possibility. Capsule 12, once lost in the void, had become a symbol, a warning inscribed in stardust. Years passed. The Solaris grew into a sentinel, protecting temporal research vessels from threats seeking to disrupt timelines. Kalen found a new purpose: teaching, advising, living as a bridge between what was and what could be. Yet, every so often, when the stars aligned just right, strange pulses echoed through the ship's comm. Signals from elsewhere in time, whispers from futures both possible and impossible. The crew listened, ever vigilant. And somewhere, in a future yet unwritten, the fracture still waited, looming beyond the horizon of time itself. For more stories, like and subscribe.